At night, I was lying on the bed, bored out of my mind, and casually sent a room number to my fiancée. Unexpectedly, my hand slipped, and I sent it to my arch-nemesis. I swear, it was absolutely an accident. As a result, she replied instantly. Are you sick in the head or something? Nothing better to do than disgust me. 2 minutes later, she sent another message. Wait, I'll be right there. Even more ridiculous, she actually came, wearing sexy pajamas and radiating her usual arrogance. She turned my peaceful life upside down. From that day on, everything spun out of control. My marriage alliance fell through, my family turned against me. I became a trending topic online and was even forced to elope. Even scarier, I found myself actually starting to look forward to her every appearance. Now she stands before me, roughly yanking my tie, a smug look on her face. I told you can't escape. Yeah, I can't escape, and I don't want to escape anymore. On the first day of the May Day holiday, I was lying on the bed in the presidential suite, playing games. My phone vibrated once. A message from my fiancée. Miss you, what are you doing? I casually snapped a photo of the river view and typed a reply. Hilton 1688. Coming, baby. As soon as the message went out, I realized something was wrong. My hand slipped and tapped the wrong contact. Above the chat box, it clearly displayed Wanyimo. My scalp prickled, and I quickly tried to retract it, but it was too late. She replied instantly. Alex, did your brain get caught in a door? Who are you trying to disgust in the middle of the night? Followed immediately by a second message. You think you can flirt with me? I stared at the screen, fingers flying as I typed. Sent it wrong. It was meant for someone else. Before I could send it, another message popped up from her. Hilarious. I knew long ago you had designs on me. Picking fights with me every day, isn't it just to get my attention? Hey, your little schemes, you think I don't know? Me, damn it. Taking a deep breath, I just sent back a 6. Wanyimo, 5 + 2 1 is equal to 6? A confession? You're too eager. You can't be this impatient when chasing girls. I'm filming a night scene right now. I'm not just at your beck and call. I couldn't take it anymore and retorted, nobody cares. 2 minutes later, my phone vibrated again. Wanyimo, wait for me, baby. I'll be right there. Me? Is this woman serious? I immediately dialed her number. It rang once before she hung up. Dialed again, switched off. I'm screwed. I ran a hand through my hair, paced the room a couple of times, and finally decided to strike first. I quickly typed, don't come, send it to the wrong person earlier. Wanyimo fired back, 3 question marks. Wrong person? Then who did you want to send it to? Who was that baby for? Learned some bad habits, haven't you? Who are you planning to meet late at night? I couldn't be bothered to argue with her and replied perfunctorily. What's it got to do with you? She replied instantly. Hilarious. Of course it has nothing to do with me. I was just asking casually. You don't really think I care, do you? Don't flatter yourself. Who cares about you? I'm just worried you have terrible taste. Don't get tricked by those questionable women out there. I stared at the screen, grinding my teeth in anger. Is something wrong with this woman? I replied through gritted teeth. Just go to sleep already and mind your own business. Wanyimo. Feeling guilty, huh? Just as I thought, you're hiding something from me. What shady business are you up to late at night? Just wait. This lady will be right there. My head started to ache. For the first time, I found an emoji so incredibly annoying. It's really nothing. I'm alone in the hotel. Do you take me for an idiot? Who in their right mind goes crazy and runs off to a hotel alone in the middle of the night? I won it in a May Day lottery draw, all right? You can just make up any old lie, can't you? Just wait. I'm coming to catch you in the act. I stared at the last message, my head buzzing. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang. I braced myself and opened the door. Wanyimo stood at the door in high heels, wrapped in a long trench coat. She scanned me up and down, sneering. Where are the paparazzi hidden? Somewhere. I stepped aside to let her in, rolling my eyes. So defensive. Were you a police dog? She ignored me and walked straight into the room. The hem of her trench coat swirled with her steps, revealing long, slender legs. I leaned against the wall, watching as she checked the wardrobe, the bathroom, even under the bed. Finally, she stopped before the floor-to-ceiling window, crossing her arms and eyeing me. Really alone? I spread my hands. Or what? She suddenly stepped closer, unbuttoning her trench coat. Her chest was faintly visible. I instinctively stepped back. She planted a hand on the wall beside my ear, her red lips parting slightly. Living alone and scared of the dark? Call me sister, and I'll keep you company. My ears burn hot. I shove her away. Get lost. But Alex wants you to keep them company. When Yimo chuckled, turned and sat down on the sofa, crossing her long legs. Seeing as I'm already here, aren't you going to offer me a drink? I sighed, suddenly feeling this night was going to end badly. I walked over to the minibar, grabbed a bottle of mineral water, and tossed it to her. No alcohol. Take it or leave it. She caught it smoothly, unscrewed the cap, and took a sip. Alex, she chuckled softly, your ears are red. It's hot. I replied stiffly, tugging at my collar. What the hell are you doing here? When Yimo didn't answer, just pointed towards the 2.5-meter bed and raised an eyebrow. Nice bed. I took a deep breath, stood up and headed for the door. Stay here if you want. I'm getting another room. When Yimo took her phone out of her pocket and waved it. What's the rush? I just sent Su Minmin my location. I froze. Who? Your fiancé. She looked down, tapping at her phone. I told her fiancé invited me to a hotel late at night, asking if she wanted to come catch us in the act. I snatched her phone. The screen showed the chat history with Su Minmin. Hilton 1688, your fiancé invited me. Come quick, when Yimo. I almost threw the phone. Are you crazy? She shrugged, settling back onto the sofa. Just helping you test true love. I lunged over and grabbed her arm. Call her right now and explain. When Yimo let me hold her arm, unmoving. Explain what? That your finger slipped? That we're innocent. She suddenly leaned in, her red lips almost touching mine. But are we really innocent, Alex? I shove her away. Have you no shame? Suddenly, the doorbell rang. When Yimo and I turned our heads simultaneously. That was fast. She raised an eyebrow and got up to open the door. I rushed to stop her, but she dodged me nimbly. I watched helplessly as the door swung open. Su Minmin stood there, her face dark, still wearing Hello Kitty pajamas. Clearly, she had rushed straight from home. She sneered. We're not even married, and you're already off getting a hotel room with someone else? Alex? Are you that desperate? When Yimo leaned against the doorframe, smiling alluringly. Minmin, your fiancé? She paused deliberately. Quite the body, you know? Pecs, abs, he's got them all. Bastard. Su Minmin angrily raised her hand and slapped me hard across the face, then turned and stormed off. Minmin. I took 2 steps after her, but when Yimo grabbed me. Don't bother chasing her. She leaned close to my ear, smiling triumphantly. The trending topics are already exploding. I whipped my head around. What trending topics? She waved her phone. The screen clearly showed the #1 real-time trending topic. Alex cheats with top celebrity when Yimo. The accompanying photo, snapped by paparazzi 10 minutes earlier, showed when Yimo standing in a hotel corridor while I, clothes disheveled, grabbed her wrist. When Yimo. I grabbed her by the collar. You did this on purpose. She let me hold her, a smirk playing on her lips. Yes, I did. Why? For fun. She gently pried my fingers off and turned to walk into his suite. By the way, let me tell you something. What? When Yimo turned back, winking at me. Su Minmin's arranged marriage partner was always my cousin. Now you're free. I stood there stunned. This woman. What game was she playing? Your cousin? I was completely confused. Su Minmin's marriage partner is your cousin. When Yimo tilted her head, casually tossing her phone onto the sofa. Who else did you think I was bored enough to interfere with you two? I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. So this whole thing was your setup from the start. Setup? She chuckled lightly, walking to the bar to pour herself a glass of water. I just gave things a little push. A surge of nameless anger flared up inside me. I snapped. Do you have any idea what the Su family situation is right now? The old man just handed me the Cancun project, and now with this kind of scandal. Scandal? When Yimo put down her glass, raising an eyebrow at me. Since when does young Master Alex care about his reputation? Her question silenced me. It was true. In our circle, I'd always done as I pleased, never caring what others thought. But this time was different. The Su family had been the old man's rivals for decades. This marriage was merely one of convenience. Just then, my phone vibrated. It was the old man calling. When Yimo glanced at it, not answering, I hit the mute button. Are you satisfied now? She shrugged and walked to the floor-to-ceiling window. The lights of the river view reflected on her face, highlighting her delicate features. Actually, you should thank me, she said suddenly. Su Minmin doesn't like you at all. She was only marrying you to get that piece of land from the Fu family. I frowned. How do you know? Because my cousin cried and begged me to ruin this engagement. She turned around, her gaze unusually serious. He's been secretly in love with Su Minmin for 5 years. I was dumbfounded. It was too much information. I didn't know what to say for a moment. The doorbell rang again. When Yimo and I turned our heads simultaneously. It couldn't be Su Minmin again, could it? She raised an eyebrow. I walked over and looked through the peephole, my scalp instantly tingling. It was Fu Yunting, my older brother. Fuck. I cursed under my breath, turning to Wen Yimo. Hide. She didn't move an inch. Why should I hide? That's my brother. So she deliberately raised her voice. It's not like we're having an affair. The knocking outside grew more urgent. I grabbed Wen Yimo and pushed her into the bathroom. Miss Wen, I'm begging you. After opening the door, Fu Yunting stood there, his face terrifyingly grim. Bro. I forced myself to appear calm. What brings you here? He strode in, his eyes sweeping over the messy sofa and the 2 water glasses on the bar. Where's Wen Yimo? What Wen Yimo? Fu Yunting sneered and headed straight for the bathroom. I rushed over to block him. What are you doing? Move, he said coldly. The old man sent me to see how you've managed to utterly disgrace the family. The bathroom door suddenly opened. Wen Yimo walked out, wearing a bathrobe, her hair dripping wet. Mr. Fu, long time no see. Fu Yunting froze. I closed my eyes in despair. Wen Yimo, however, acted as if nothing was wrong, walking to the bar to pour a glass of water. Want some? Shameless. Fu Yunting spat the word out through clenched teeth and turned to leave. The door slammed shut with a deafening bang. I turned and glared at Wen Yimo. You did that on purpose. She blinked innocently. I was taking a shower. I couldn't very well do that with my clothes on. Could I? You? The phone rang again. This time it was Su Minmin. I pressed the answer button. Her cold voice came through the line. Alex, I've already had someone issue the statement canceling our engagement. As for the old man, you explain it yourself. The line went dead, sharp and clean. I stood rooted to the spot, suddenly finding the whole situation absurdly laughable. When Yimo smiled. Now you're officially free. Free. I gave a bitter smile. Do you have any idea what this freedom cost? She reached out and poked the space between my eyebrows. You look really ugly when you frown. I grabbed her wrist. Wen Yimo, what do you really want? She leaned in closer. What if I said I want you? I snatched my hand back, taking 2 steps away. Don't joke like that. Who's joking? She tilted her head. Junior year, during the university anniversary celebration, I wrote you a love letter. You threw it away like trash. I froze. I did remember receiving an anonymous letter back then. I'd assumed it was a prank. The doorbell rang for the 3rd time. When Yimo and I simultaneously looked toward the door. Again, she chuckled softly. It's really lively today. Guess who it is this time? I walked over to the peephole. One look in, I froze. It was Father. I stared through the peephole at that stern, imposing face. A cold sweat instantly broke out on my back. Who is it? When Yimo asked from behind me. I spun around, whispering urgently, It's Father. When Yimo stumbled back a couple of steps, the tie on her bathrobe nearly coming loose. Your dad. Who else would it be? My voice dropped lower as I quickly scanned the room. The balcony. Go out through the adjoining room. But when Yimo stood her ground, raising a hand to smooth her hair. Why should I hide? The knocking outside had escalated to pounding. When Yimo, I gritted my teeth. What will it take to make you leave? She tilted her head, a slow smile spreading across her lips. Call me older sister and I'll help you. I nearly choked. Alex. Father's voice boomed through the door. Open up. I closed my eyes tightly and forced the word out through gritted teeth. Older sister. When Yimo grinned triumphantly, reaching out to pinch my cheek. Good boy. She turned towards the door. I quickly blocked her path. What are you doing? Solving the problem, of course. She effortlessly brushed my hand aside and pulled the door open. Father stood outside, dressed in a Tang suit, flanked by 2 bodyguards. The instant his eyes landed on Wen Yimo, they sharpened. Miss Wen, he said coldly, what brings you to my son's room at this hour? Wen Yimo calmly adjusted her bathrobe. Hello, Uncle Fu. I came to see your son. I was dumbstruck. Father shot me a cold glance. Explain. I was about to speak, but Wen Yimo cut in first. Uncle Fu, the truth is, I'm pursuing your son. Father, and I froze simultaneously. I've been pursuing him since university, she sighed softly. Unfortunately, your son has high standards. He doesn't think I'm good enough. Father narrowed his eyes. So tonight, just being relentlessly persistent, you could say, when Yimo shrugged. If you must blame someone, blame me. It has nothing to do with Alex. An awkward silence filled the room. Father suddenly chuckled. Interesting. He looked at me. I've already dealt with the Su family situation. Since Miss Wen is so sincere, he continued, there's a charity gala next month. Would Miss Wen be interested in attending as Alex's date? When Yimo smiled sweetly, I would be honored. Father nodded, satisfied. As he turned to leave, he shot me a meaningful look. Alex, you're hopeless. The moment the door clicked shut, my legs gave out, and I collapsed onto the sofa. When Yimo leaned in. So, pretty good acting, wasn't it? I looked up and glared at her. Are you crazy? The old man hates people from the entertainment industry the most. But he just invited me. She waved her phone smugly and added me on WeChat. I snatched the phone. Right there in the chat history was the digital dinner invitation sent by the old man. When Yimo took back the phone and suddenly leaned closer to me. Alex, your face is so red. I stood up abruptly. I'm not comfortable staying in a hotel. I'm going home to sleep. She tilted her head. Leaving already? Not going to do something to repay me. Repay? I scoffed. Goodbye and good riddance. With that, I turned and left. At 3 a.m, I lay in my own bed, tossing and turning. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Wen Yimo in her bathrobe and heard her words, I'm pursuing you. My phone vibrated again. It was a voice message from Wen Yimo. I hesitated for 2 seconds, then played it. Alex, her voice held a smile. I dreamed about you. I stared at the ceiling, my heartbeat suddenly quickening. The second voice message followed immediately. Dreamed you called me Jieja. My hand trembled, and the phone hit my face. The third voice message. And I also dreamed that you. She deliberately drew out her words, kissed me. I sat up abruptly and typed back, Wen Yimo. She replied instantly. Still awake? You woke me up. Liar, she sent a smug emoji. You were obviously thinking about me. Grinding my teeth, I turned off the phone, rolled over, and buried my face in the pillow. This woman was simply relentless. Early the next morning, I was woken up by a phone call. Shikai's loud voice exploded from the receiver. Bro, you're trending. Groggy, I put the phone on speaker. What? Wen Yimo's latest Weibo post. He was so excited, he was incoherent. See for yourself. I hung up and opened Weibo. The top trending topic was Wen Yimo confirms relationship. The accompanying picture was a selfie from the hotel last night. In it, she was wearing a bathrobe and making a V sign while I stood in the background with a dark expression. The caption was just one word, boyfriend. I stared at that word on the phone screen, my finger hovering over the keyboard for a long time without moving. Boyfriend. Wen Yimo's post had already been retweeted tens of thousands of times, and the comment section exploded. The top comment was, so the young master Alex was forced into making it official. Wen Yimo had actually replied, he's shy. Furious, I dialed her number directly, only to get a busy signal. Shikai's message popped up again. Bro, are you too serious? I replied with a piss off and threw the phone aside. The butler knocked on the door. Mr. Alex, a Miss Wen is waiting for you at the gate. I pulled open the curtains. Parked at the gate was an eye-catching red Lamborghini sports car. Wen Yimo, wearing sunglasses, leaned against the car door. Tell her I'm not here. Miss Wen said, the butler hesitated, that if you don't see her, she'll start a live stream since it's already trending. One more time won't hurt. I took a deep breath. Fine, tell her to wait. I'll be right down. 20 minutes later, I sat in the passenger seat, scowling. Wen Yimo handed me an iced Americano. Morning, boyfriend. Who's your boyfriend? I took the coffee. Delete that Weibo post immediately. She stepped on the gas. No. The sports car roared onto the main road. I had to grab a handle. Where are you taking me? An auction? She steered with one hand. Patek Philippe special auction. That vintage watch you like is there. I frowned. How did you know I liked it? On your birthday that year. You told Xiaokai at the bar. She snorted softly. I remembered. I was speechless for a moment. That was 4 years ago. She actually still remembered. The car stopped at the entrance of the auction house. Wen Yimo took out a paper bag from the back seat. Change into this. I opened it to see a brand new suit. The size should fit, she winked. I felt inside. In the brightly lit auction hall, I spotted Su Minmin sitting in the front row right away. A strange man sat beside her. He must have been Wen Yimo's cousin. Don't look. Wen Yimo pulled me down into a seat. Today's target is that 1955 platinum wristwatch. As the auctioneer began introducing the lots, I whispered, "What exactly are you trying to do?" She leaned close to my ear. "Helping you get even." The second lot was the watch, with a starting bid of 4 million. When Yimo bid 5 million, Su Minmin suddenly joined in. 6 million. She raised her paddle without looking back. When Yimo pressed my hand down. Wait. The price soared to 8 million, leaving only Su Minmin and me in the running. 10 million. When Yimo suddenly raised her paddle. A stir went through the hall. Su Minmin whipped her head around, her gaze sweeping between Wen Yimo and me. With a sneer she said, 11 million. 15 million. Wen Yimo didn't bat an eyelid. The auctioneer excitedly banged his gavel. 15 million, going once. Su Minmin's face was livid, but ultimately, she didn't raise her paddle again. The gavel fell. Wen Yimo turned to me, smiling. "It's for you." I froze. "What?" "A gift," she winked. "To celebrate your escape from misery." Su Minmin abruptly stood up and walked over. "Alex, what's the meaning of this?" Before I could speak, Wen Yimo linked her arm through mine. "Minmin, he's my boyfriend now." Su Minmin stared at our linked arms and laughed. "Interesting. Alex, you'll regret this." With that, she stormed out. Wen Yimo released my arm and nonchalantly paid with her card. A staff member respectfully handed over the watch box. She immediately thrust it into my arms. "Try it on." "Why are you helping me?" I asked suddenly. She tilted her head, looking at me. "Didn't I tell you? I'm pursuing you." I sighed softly. "Be serious." Wen Yimo laughed loudly, turning to leave. "Fine, don't believe me. See you tomorrow, boyfriend." I stood rooted to the spot, clutching the watch box tightly. My heart was pounding so fast I had to take several deep breaths to calm down. The next morning, my phone buzzed incessantly with notifications. Squinting, I opened them. There were over a dozen messages from Wen Yimo. "Good morning, boyfriend. Shooting a commercial today. The stylist gave me a super ugly hairstyle." And the last one was a voice message. When I played it, her laughing voice came through. "Alex, want to visit the set today?" I stared blankly at the ceiling for a moment, then replied, "Busy, some other day." When Yimo replied instantly, "Oh, just one word," but I somehow felt she was angry. In a study of the old Fu family residence, the old master was brewing tea. I stood before the table, watching him methodically rinse the cups, warm the pot, and brew the tea. "Sit." He didn't look up. I pulled out a chair and sat. The watch from Wen Yimo on my wrist accidentally knocked against the table, making a crisp sound. The old master glanced up. "New watch. MHM. From a London girl?" I remained silent. The old master handed me a cup of tea. "The Su family has pulled their investment." My hand trembled, splashing tea onto it. "Why the panic?" His tone was calm. "I expected this day would come. Then the Cancun project proceeds as usual." The old master took a sip of tea. "But the funding gap needs to be filled." I gripped my teacup. "How much?" 800 million. The figure stunned me. It wasn't that the Fu family couldn't afford the sum, but if the liquid capital was withdrawn, other projects would be affected. "I'll show you a way out." The old master put down his teacup. "The Shin family is willing to inject capital on the condition of a marriage alliance." I looked up sharply. "The Shin family?" "Xinjing. The engagement is next month." His tone left no room for argument. "I called you here today to inform you, not to discuss." I stood up, the chair scraping harshly against the floor. "I don't agree." The old master sneered. "Because of Wen Yimo?" "It has nothing to do with her." My expression was serious. "I can't possibly marry someone I barely met. Feelings can be cultivated." "Then why don't you marry her?" I regretted the words as soon as they left my mouth. The old master's face instantly turned grim. "Alex, don't forget your place." I took a deep breath. "Dad, I'll figure something out for the Cancun project, but the marriage alliance. It's not up for discussion." He cut me off directly. "Either get engaged or get out of the Fu family." After leaving the old residence, I drove straight to Shakai's bar. At 2 in the afternoon, the bar wasn't open yet. Shakai was taking inventory of the alcohol. "Well, look who it is. A rare guest." He tossed me a bottle of whiskey. What brings the star of the trending searches to my humble place? I twisted off the cap and took a large gulp. The fiery liquid burned my throat. Shakai raised an eyebrow. Something happened? The old master wants me to marry Xinjing. Shakai spat out his drink. That tiger is from a Shin family. I wiped my face. There's an 800 million funding gap. So you agree? Is that even possible? Shakai stroked his chin thoughtfully. Does Wen Yimo know? I shook my head. Are you planning to tell her? I took another swig of whiskey. I don't know. Shakai suddenly leaned in close. Bro, don't tell me you've actually fallen for Wen Yimo. My hand trembled, nearly dropping the bottle. What nonsense are you talking? Then why are you panicking? He smirked. You were never this conflicted about any of those rumored girlfriends before. Just as I was about to retort, the bar door was pushed open. Wen Yimo stood in the doorway, still wearing a sequin dress from a photo shoot. Her makeup and hair looking perfectly done, as if she'd just walked off set. Found you. She walked straight up to me, snatched the bottle, and took a drink. Why weren't you answering my messages? Shakai tactfully slipped away to the back kitchen. I averted my gaze. My phone was on silent. Liar. Wen Yimo turned my face towards her. What happened? I subconsciously grabbed her hand. It's nothing. Alex, she suddenly became serious. Did the old master give you trouble? I released her hand. It's none of your business. How is it none of my business? Her voice rose. I'm your girlfriend now, remember? That was an act you staged yourself. I shot up from my seat. Wen Yimo, this charade should end. She froze. What do you mean? Exactly what it sounds like. I forced myself to calm down. We were never real to begin with. Let's just go back to our own lives. Wen Yimo stared at me for a few seconds, then laughed. Because of the marriage alliance? My heart jumped. How did you know? Xinjing just posted on our Moments saying she's getting engaged next month. She waved her phone. My guess is the groom is you. I was speechless. Wen Yimo took another drink, her Adam's apple bobbing. So you just accepted it like that? An 800 million funding gap. I gave a bitter smile. I don't have a choice. Bullshit. She suddenly slammed the bottle onto the table. Just drunk, liar. Tears streamed down her face. I've chased you for 5 years. You clearly developed feelings. I avoided her gaze, not daring to look at her. Wen Yimo, forget it. She suddenly turned around. Pretend I was never here. The moment the door slammed shut, Shaokai poked his head out from the back kitchen. Bro, you're screwed. I grabbed my jacket and ran out after her, but only saw the taillights of the red sports car disappearing around the corner. My phone sounded again. It was a voice message from Wen Yimo. When I played it, I heard her voice, thick with tears. Alex, you bastard. Wen Yimo's voice message played on loop in my head all night. I stared at my phone screen, my finger hovering over the keyboard for a long time, but in the end, I didn't reply. At 4 in the morning, I drove back to my apartment and found a figure standing at the door. Brother? I narrowed my eyes. What are you doing here? Fu Yunting was dressed in a suit, holding a file folder. Waiting for you. I opened the door and let him in. He walked straight into the living room and sat down, tossing the file folder onto the coffee table. Take a look. I opened it. It was a share transfer agreement. What's this? Sign it. Fu Yunting adjusted his gold-rimmed glasses. Transfer the Cancun project to me, and I'll take care of the marriage alliance for you. I scoffed. Does the old man know you're this filial? His eyes were cold. Sign it or don't. Suit yourself. With that, he turned to leave. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. Mr. Alex, a strange man's voice came from outside the door. We're from the Economic Crime Investigation Department. We need you to cooperate with an investigation. I opened the door. The police officer showed me his credentials. Mr. Alex, someone has reported you for suspected commercial fraud. Please come with us. Cooperating with the investigation is my duty. I adjusted my collar. Let's go. In the interrogation room, the police officer pushed a stack of documents towards me. Mr. Alex, can you explain these transfer records? I glanced at them. They were all forged transaction records from overseas accounts. Fake. What about this then? He pushed another contract forward. It clearly bore my signature. I sneered. A handwriting analysis can prove its authenticity. The interrogation lasted for 6 hours. In the end, they had no choice but to let me go. The evidence was too flimsy. It didn't even meet the standard for filing a case. When I walked out of the police station, it was already late at night. Fu Yunting's car was parked by the roadside. He lowered the car window. Get in. The old man wants to see you. I pulled open the car door and got in. Satisfied. This is just the beginning. He started the car. Sign the transfer agreement, and you can still leave with dignity. Dream on. Fu Yunting suddenly slammed on the brakes, turned his head, and glared at me. Alex, do you really think when Yimo likes you? She just wants to use the Alex's family to break into the real estate circle. I scoffed. And what about you? Using the Shun family to swallow the Alex's family. I'm doing this for the company, his voice rose. The old man is getting old. His decisions are becoming more and more conservative. If we don't transform soon, the Alex's family will be eliminated sooner or later. I looked out the window, to the old mansion. The old master was sitting in the study, the pile of so-called evidence laid out before him. Explain. He tapped the desk. There's nothing to explain. I looked him straight in the eye. You've already made up your mind, haven't you? The old master was silent for a moment, then suddenly sighed. Alex, you've disappointed me greatly. Because I didn't follow your script? Because you don't understand priorities. He slammed the table. Risking the family's interests for a woman? I stood up. Dad, do you really believe that evidence? He avoided my gaze. Tomorrow's board meeting, you're temporarily suspended. What about the Cancun project? Fu Yunting will take over. I nodded and turned to leave. Stop, the old master called after me. Where are you going? As you wish. I didn't look back. I quit. Stepping out of the old mansion's gate, the night wind hit my face. I took out my phone. 17 missed calls from Wanyimo. Just as I was about to call back, a red sports car roared up and screeched to a halt in front of me. The window rolled down. Wanyimo, wearing a bucket hat and a mask, said, "Get in." I pulled open the door and got in. She immediately stepped on the gas. They didn't give you a hard time, did they? She looked me over nervously. I shook my head. What are you doing here? She sighed. After I heard you were taken away by the police, I waited outside the station. I was worried about you. I smiled. Thank you for always being there. She asked softly. Cut the chatter. Where are we going now? I said lightly, the airport. Wanyimo glanced at me in surprise. Really? MHM. I took her hand. We're eloping. Wanyimo's sports car sped down the highway. Staring at the rapidly retreating streetscape outside the window, it suddenly felt a bit unreal. Did you bring your passport? She suddenly asked. I felt my pocket. In my wallet. Good. She grabbed a backpack from the back seat with one hand and tossed it to me. There's cash and a burner phone inside. I opened the backpack. Inside were several neat stacks of cash and a new phone. You prepared this already? Since the day you refused the arranged marriage. She glanced at me. I knew this day would come. I said lightly, Wanyimo, think carefully. If we leave like this. Shut up, she cut me off. One more word of nonsense, and I'll throw you out. I looked at her tense profile and smiled. Do you know what we look like right now? Fugitive lovers? Like that terrible movie you were in last year, Runaway Bride. 99 times, she slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching loudly against the pavement. Inertia threw me forward, but the seat belt yanked me back. Alex, she turned and glared at me. I'm eloping with you. Can't you have a little more sense of ceremony? I unbuckled my seatbelt, leaned over and kissed her. Wanyimo froze, her fingers unconsciously tightening on the steering wheel. I gently bit her lower lip, then pulled back. Ceremonial enough? The tips of her ears turned red. After a long moment, she managed to squeeze out, barely passable. The car started moving again, much more steadily this time. Wanyimo parked the car in the underground garage and took out a baseball cap and a mask from the trunk. Put these on. We took the elevator upstairs like an ordinary couple, her hand tightly gripping mine. At the check-in counter, she handed me a ticket. Macau. Why Macau? My friend owns a hotel there, she winked. Besides, it's close, convenient for you to go back and prove them wrong. When the plane landed at Macau airport, dozens of messages flooded my phone the moment I turned it on. Wanyimo snatched it, turned it off, defiantly removed the SIM card, and threw it into a trash can. From now on, you only have me. She handed me a new phone. Only my number is saved in it. I raised an eyebrow. So smooth. Learned it from filming. She lifted her chin smugly. Ever seen Agent Darling? I was in it. That piece of trash with a 3.0 Dubon score. Wanyimo kicked me. The taxi stopped at the entrance of the Venetian Hotel. Wanyimo pulled me straight toward the elevator. The moment the doors closed, she immediately pressed the button for the top floor, then glanced around warily. Relax, I squeezed her hand. No one's following us. Are you sure? Fu Yunting would give up so easily. The words were barely out of her mouth when the elevator abruptly stopped on an intermediate floor. The doors opened, and two men in black suits were standing outside. When Yimo instantly tensed up, I instinctively shielded her behind me. Mr. Alex. One of them spoke. President Wen sent us to pick you up. I frowned. Which President Wen? When Yimo let out a sigh of relief. That's my cousin. In the penthouse suite, a man in a sharp suit was clattering away at a computer keyboard. Hearing the noise, he didn't look up. Sis, your man's better looking than his photo. When Yimo rolled her eyes. What are you playing at? Only then did the man turn around. Alex, right? He looked me up and down. Your brothers put out a 50 million bounty for you. My heart skipped a beat. What? When Yimo's face turned pale. That's not all. When you click to open another page, he's also frozen all your accounts, including the joint ones. I clenched my fists. What about the old man? Playing deaf and dumb. He shrugged. However, he took a file folder from a drawer. I hacked into the Alex's Corporation's internal network and found something interesting. I opened the folder. Inside were copies of a secret agreement between Fu Yunting and the Shin family, along with several forged financial documents. This is enough to send him to prison. When you narrowed his eyes. The question is, do you dare to use it? When Yimo snatched the documents. Why wouldn't we dare? Because if this gets out, the Alex's family stock price will plummet. When you looked at me. Can you bear to do that? I was silent for a moment. Are there backups? Servers in 3 different countries. Let's hold off for now. I put the documents away securely. Right now, the most important thing is money. When you interrupted me. You two are penniless now, aren't you? When Yimo protested indignantly. I have my acting fees. They're frozen. Her cousin burst her bubble ruthlessly. Your agent just sent an email. The company is withholding all your income, citing breach of contract. When Yimo swore. When you suddenly pushed a bank card towards us. There's 10 million in here, enough to tide you over for a while. I frowned. Why are you helping us? 2 reasons, he held up a finger. First, I hate Fu Yunting. Second, he grinned brightly. I want to see just how crazy this elopement of yours can get. The next morning, I was woken up by the vibration of my phone. When Yimo was curled up in my arms, sleeping soundly. It was a text from Wenyu. Turn on the TV, quick. I carefully extracted my arm pinned under Yimo and picked up the remote control. The local news was reporting. The Alex's Corporation issued a statement this morning, removing Alex from all his positions. Fu Yunting will take over as CEO. The screen cut to a press conference where Fu Yunting stood before the cameras, impeccably dressed in a suit. Regarding my younger brother's departure, we express our deepest regret. We hope that upon seeing this news he will return home soon. The Alex's family will always welcome him. His hypocrisy was nauseating. When Yimo had woken up at some point, she hugged me from behind. What are you watching? I muted the news. Fu Yunting took power. Regrets? Her chin rested on my shoulder. No regrets. I turned, pushing her back onto the bed. You're more important. She laughed, dodging my kiss. Cut it out. What now? Leave Macau first. I grabbed the notepad by the bed, scribbling. Since Fu Yunting put out a bounty, it's not safe here anymore. When Yimo suddenly jumped off the bed, pulling 2 passports from deep within her suitcase. Already prepared. I opened them. 2 fake passports. Our photos, but different names. Where did you get these? A gift from the prop master when filming Spy Couple. She was smug. 99% authentic. I was speechless for a moment. Just how many bad movies have you starred in? Is that the point? She kicked me lightly. We have new identities now, Mr. Alex. The plan on the notepad took shape. Macau, Bangkok, Phuket, Maldives. No more than 3 days each stop. Cash only. When Yimo's eyes lit up. A global escape? Exciting. Not an escape. I corrected her. It's a honeymoon. The tips of her ears turned red. Who wants a honeymoon with you? After arriving in the Maldives, I received an urgent call from Wenyu. The news about Fu Yunting misappropriating project funds broke. His voice held suppressed excitement. The old master was so angry he ended up in the hospital. I shot upright. Is it serious? Minor heart attack, not life-threatening. He paused. He wants you back. When Yimo was sunbathing on a balcony. Hearing this, she turned her head. I covered the mouthpiece. The old master wants to see me. She walked over barefoot, her wet toes padding on the wooden floor. Going back, I looked at her sun-kissed cheeks, suddenly uncertain. For the past 2 months, we'd traveled from Thailand to the Maldives, checking in with fake passports, paying with cash, leaving our pursuers and worries far behind. When you urged on the other end, "Alex, give me 2 days." Hanging up, when Yimo straddled my lap. Homesick, I wrapped my arms around her waist. "Want revenge?" She laughed. "Then let's go back." The capital airport was quieter than expected. No reporters, no bodyguards, just when you leaning against the railing at the arrival's gate. "Welcome back, fugitive lovebirds." He handed me a folder. The latest battle report. Evidence of Fu Yunting's embezzlement. Records of the Shun family secretly manipulating stock prices, and an authorization letter signed by the old master, restoring all my positions. This simple. I flipped through the documents, incredulous. When you sneered, "Simple? Do you know how many other systems I hacked these past 2 months?" When Yimo squeezed my hand. "Straight to the hospital." I nodded. In the private ward, the old master was propped up in bed reading documents. He looked thinner than the last time I saw him. Hearing the noise, he didn't look up. "Decided to come back, did you?" I tossed the evidence onto the bedside table. "You knew Fu Yunting was trouble all along?" I knew. He took off his reading glasses, but I didn't expect him to be this foolish. "The Cancun project is a mess now." The old master rubbed his temples wearily. "Banks pulled funding, partners withdrew, the stock price dropped 40%. I can take over." "Conditions?" I looked towards Yimo by the door. "I want to marry her." The old master was silent for a long moment, then smiled. "All right." He took a document from the drawer. It was Fu Yunting's dismissal notice, already signed. "Board meeting tomorrow. Don't be late." At the board meeting a week later, Fu Yunting watched me walk in, his face displeased. Shareholders whispered amongst themselves. A few old board members even stood up and applauded. I turned on the projector. The first slide showed the record of financial transactions between Fu Yunting and the Shin family. "Everyone, I only have 3 things to say today." The meeting room was silent. First, the Cancun project is restarting. I will personally inject the capital to cover the funding gap. Second, Fu Yunting is suspected of misappropriation of company assets and has been handed over to the judicial authorities. Third, I looked towards the door. When Yimo walked in, dressed in a business suit. "This is the representative from One Pictures, our new partner." Fu Yunting suddenly slammed the table and stood up. "What gives you the right to do this?" "The fact that I'm the largest shareholder." I cut him off. "I forgot to inform you. The old master transferred the 15% of shares under his name to me." After the meeting, when Yimo stopped me in the hallway. "Wait, when did I become the representative for One Pictures?" "Just decided." I wrapped my arm around her waist. "Fiancé and partner, like it?" She raised an eyebrow. "Such a casual proposal." "Then how about this?" I knelt on one knee and took a diamond ring out of my pocket. "When Yimo, marry me." Her eyes reddened, but she still played hard to get. "I don't want this one. I want a pink diamond, a pigeon's egg." "Fine, I'll get you those." "So, will you marry me or not?" "Yes." She threw herself into my arms. "You jerk." The wedding was held in an open-air garden by the Huangpu River. I stood under the floral arch, watching when Yimo slowly walked down the aisle, arm in arm with her father. She wore a simple satin wedding dress. When she stood before me, she winked. "Still time to back out." I took her hand. "I should be asking you that." The officiant began reciting the vows, but I could only see her glistening, almond-shaped eyes. At the reception, the old master, unusually, had drunk too much and was pulling my father-in-law close, calling him brother. When you and Xiaokai were having a drinking contest by the pool, while a few guests from the entertainment industry gathered around the cake, taking photos. I slipped away to the terrace with my arm around Wen Yimo's waist. The river breeze brushed through her hair. I asked concernedly, "Tired?" She leaned on my shoulder. "Much less tiring than acting." A cruise ship passed in the distance, its horn sounding long and low. When Yimo turned to face me. "Alex, do you remember the first time we met?" I nodded. "The university opening ceremony. You gave a speech as the freshman representative." "Wrong." She poked my chest. "It was the second day of military training. You were slacking off under the shade of a tree, and I reported you." My eyes widened. "So it was you. You got me punished with 10 laps." She shook her head smugly. "Serves you right for being so cocky back then." I leaned down and nipped her lip. And now? Still think I'm cocky. Even cockier. She tilted her head up to look at me. But now I like it. Late at night, the guests had all left. I carried a tipsy Wanyimo back to the presidential suite. She was stunning today. I suddenly felt a familiar heat stir within me. I loosened my tie and wrapped it around her wrists. Wanyimo. I love you. She suddenly rolled over and straddled my waist, looking down at me with a raised eyebrow. Mr. Alex, at a time like this, you should show me with actions. I gripped her waist and flipped her over, taking control. As you command. She gasped my name in my ear, her voice a million times more real and alluring than the deliberately seductive tone she used when acting. At 2 a.m, she was nestled against my chest, whining playfully. I'm hungry. I called room service. She snatched the phone. I want a double portion of cheesecake and 2 steaks, medium rare. My wife has a big appetite, I added. She pinched my arm. Who's your wife? Who kept calling me hubby just now? When Yimo buried her face in the pillow, playing dead, but the red tips of her ears gave her away. I pulled the pillow away and kissed the small mole on the tip of her nose. Say it again. Hubby. That single nasal endearment was enough to undo me. I was just about to pin her down for another round when the doorbell rang. When the waiter pushed the room service card in, when Yimo was wrapped in a blanket, only her head showing. It's all your fault. As soon as the door closed, she hit me with a pillow. Look at me. I'm covered in the hickeys you left. How am I supposed to film tomorrow? I fed her a bite of cake. Then quit acting. I'll support you. She rolled her eyes at me and was about to kick me, but I caught her ankle and pulled her back into my arms. Cream cheese stuck to the corner of her mouth. I lowered my head and licked it off. So sweet. The cake, or me? You. I rolled over, pinning her beneath me. Inside and out. Outside the window, the lights of Shanghai remained brilliant, and our story had only just begun. The end.